Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Sandy Smith, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Seaman Jean Lindsay. We warmly welcome the family of Private Robert Lewis Cornwell, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome all veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family, visitors to the memorial, and Australian Defence Force cadets who are in attendance this evening. If you are able, I now invite you to please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Visitors who are able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Robert Lewis Cornwell. Robert Cornwell was born on the 22nd of January, 1907, the only son of Robert and Susan Cornwell of Footscray in Melbourne. He attended Hyde Street Footscray Central School and later worked for both Footscray Council and W. Inglis & Co. meat processing plant. In 1928, he married Coral Hodgetts and the couple had 6 children. Cornwell enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force on the 27th of March 1940, and after only a few weeks training with the 2nd 8th Infantry Battalion at Puckapunyal in central Victoria, embarked from Melbourne for service overseas. In mid-May, he arrived in Egypt, where he continued his training in preparation for the war against Italian forces in North Africa. At that time, the Italians, who were allied with Nazi Germany, were attacking eastwards from positions in Libya. Their goal was to seize the vital British-held territory of Egypt, in particular the Suez Canal. After training in the hot Egyptian conditions for 6 months, Cornwell was hospitalised from November 1940 until mid-January 1941. His illness meant that he missed his unit's initial engagement in the war, the successful capture of Bardia on the Libyan coast on the 3rd to the 5th of January 1941. Cornwell rejoined his unit as it was moving westward against the Italian stronghold of Tobruk. On the 18th of January, in hot and windy conditions, Cornwell and the 2nd 8th Battalion took up position for a major British and Australian attack on the strategically important target. Shortly before 8 a.m. on the 21st of January, Cornwell and the 2nd 8th took part in the 3rd wave of the Australian attack, assaulting Tobruk from the south. In this attack, they faced fierce opposition from Italian machine gun posts, artillery, and stationary tanks dug into the ground. The Australian battalion suffered heavily in the battle, and the unit's war diary from the time recorded losing 23 killed, 81 wounded, and 104 reported as missing. It was during this assault that Cornwell suffered gunshot wounds to the abdomen. He was evacuated to hospital for treatment, but on the 27th of January, just 5 days after his 34th birthday, he died of his wounds. Robert Cornwell is buried in Chatby Military and War Memorial Cemetery in Alexandria, Egypt, where 500 Commonwealth soldiers of the Second World War now lie. He was survived by his wife and 6 children, and his family was left the following message on his grave. He died to save his pal and his country. Greater love hath no man. Robert Cornwell's name is listed on the honour roll on my left, among nearly 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Robert Lewis Cornwell, who gave up his life for us, our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.